The anatomy of a headshot. A headshot is a fatal wound, but there is much more that happens when a bullet enters someone's skull. Because a shotgun to the head is pretty self-explanatory, we're talking about rifles and pistols. Let's start with the firearm. When you fire a bullet from a pistol or rifle, it goes through the rifle barrel. A rifle barrel's grooves cause the bullet to spin. When this spinning bullet enters the skull, it rotates, flinging cranial tissue outward, then expands to about 12.5 times the diameter of the bullet, but only for about 5 to 10 milliseconds before contracting back to normal size. A .38 caliber bullet leaves a 4.4-inch wide wound, whereas a .45 caliber bullet, despite being very short, leaves a 5-inch wide wound. The expanded cavity causes significant skull damage. This wound creates a vacuum effect, allowing air to rush into it and expand the cranial cavity, resulting in secondary fracture lines spreading out from the wound. The majority of fractures occur in soft tissues, such as the temples and orbital plates behind the eyes. The more powerful the firearm, the more secondary skull fracturing, especially in thicker and harder areas like the front and back. People always wonder which factor, length, velocity, or weight, contributes to a bullet's toxicity to the human body. The answer is velocity, because the higher the kinetic energy of a bullet, the more damage it does. Rifles are more lethal than pistols not because of their weight, but because of the velocity of their rounds. Inside the skull, when a bullet penetrates, it leaves an entrance wound about the size of the bullet. It leaves a wound many times the size of the bullet if it exits the skull. A bullet can pierce plastic, metal, wood, and bone. This is because as the bullet passes through the medium, it creates a shock wave in front of it, which widens. The bullet may also rip or mushroom, increasing its surface area. The bullet bevels the bone in the interior of the skull. The flaring chips pierce the skull and enter the brain, causing additional damage. On a head shot, the bullet does one of three things. First, if it loses enough energy, it will slow down and stop. When it pierces the skull, it will either end up inside the brain or at the other end of the skull. Secondly, it will either pass through, or thirdly, it will ricochet inside the head. Ricochet is the rarest, accounting for only about 20% of all bullet paths. The round will almost certainly pass through if fired from a high-powered rifle, and if fired from a pistol, it will almost certainly stop in the brain or ricochet. In the majority of ricochets, the bullet follows the round groove of the skull. Because the bullet has lost so much energy in transit, it simply glides along the groove, occasionally resting just beneath the scalp. The brain is a strong, elastic, and incredibly soft organ. Unfortunately, these characteristics have no effect on reducing brain damage caused by a gunshot. Gunshots, on the other hand, cause less damage to your intestines, stomach, and bladder. Because the tissue stretches, the energy from the pressure wave is dissipated, but solid and elastic organs such as your liver, pancreas, kidneys, heart, and brain are completely damaged because the tissue does not stretch. The bullet's path from the barrel to the head can indicate how damaged the brain is. If the bullet is fired far enough away, it may bounce off the head, causing a wound similar to being hit in the head with a baseball bat or hammer, but it will not penetrate the skull and will still cause severe damage. These shots, of course, are much further away than 100 yards and are fired from low-powered firearms such as a pistol or a .22 contact shot. Please note, not all headshots are fatal.